welcome to Cine series recap. Enola Holmes rides her bicycle and narrates the film as it begins. She adds that her mother Eudora, who loved wordplay, insisted on name her Enola after her birth, and that after her father died young and her elder brothers, Mycroft and Sherlock, left, her mother raised and schooled her at their rural home of Ferndale Hall. In contrast to Victorian England's stuffy and traditional schools and expectations, Eudora nurtured Enola on various literature, sciences, and sports, and fostered a free and fun lifestyle. Despite their typical closeness, Enola once inadvertently disrupted a covert meeting between her mother and a group of other ladies who kept their objectives hidden from her. She goes on to tell that on the morning of her 16th birthday, Enola awakened to discover her mother absent,
at some point during the night,
leaving only a wooden gift box with a booklet on flowers, cards, and pencils as a birthday present passed on to her by Mrs. Lane, their housekeeper. Returning in the present, Enola informs the audience that it has been a week since Eudora's abduction, and she is on her way to the train station to meet Mycroft, who is now a wealthy nobleman working for the government, and Sherlock, the famous detective,
scholar, chemist, virtuoso violinist, expert marksman, swordsman, single-stick fighter, pugilist, and brilliant deductive thinker.
Her brothers do not recognize her at first, having not seen her since she was a child. Mycroft is appalled that Enola is out in public without a hat or gloves, and that she is filthy after falling from her bike on her way to the station. He is even more irritated to discover that Enola has not arrived with the carriage he has been paying for, which confuses Enola because they do not possess a carriage. Sherlock orders a taxi to drive them to Ferndale, where Mycroft is shocked at the state of the mansion. He informs Sherlock that he has been transferring large sums of money to Eudora, who has been sending him letters listing the costs of the home, including rooms, household employees, and teachers for Enola, all of which do not exist. Sherlock investigates and concludes that, while Eudora's departure is not the result of foul play, she does not plan to return. Mycroft and Sherlock are debating what to do with their younger sister now that Eudora has passed away. Eudora, Mycroft believes, has plundered him and burdened him with Enola. Sherlock believes Enola should be allowed to stay at Ferndale because Eudora schooled her on almost every topic personally, and she appears to be quite intelligent. Mycroft, on the other hand, insists on sending her away to a harsh boarding school to be transformed into a decent woman, emphasizing the fact that she is now his ward, and Sherlock has showed little interest in the family. Mycroft summons Miss Harrison of Miss Harrison's finishing school for young women, and Enola's rebellious spirit earns her a smack from the headmistress. Mycroft is adamant on sending Enola away, and Sherlock refuses to assist. Later evening, Sherlock comes into Enola drawing and recalls his limited recollections of her, including a pine cone wrapped in wool she named Dash after one of Queen Victoria's hounds. Sherlock is chastised by Enola for never visiting or writing home, despite the fact that she has followed every one of his cases. Sherlock regards Eudora's disappearance as an intriguing mystery to be solved, and instructs Enola to seek for what is already in front of her. Enola discovers a secret coded message from her mother in the present box she left that night. She deciphers it and follows the clues in the booklet to a concealed envelope containing money dedicated to her, with the lone letter being, "Our future is up to us." Enola chooses to flee to find her mother, masquerading as a boy and boarding a train to London. A wealthy family is desperately searching for someone at the station. Enola observes a latecomer on the train wearing a brown bowler hat and signaling to someone on the platform. The train departs and is well on its way when a young man of Enola's age emerges from a huge travel bag in her compartment. Enola deduces that this is the kid sought by the family at the station, and he presents himself as Viscount Tewkesbury, Marquis of Basilweather, and declares that he is fleeing. Enola informs him about the man with the bowler hat, who she believes has been dispatched to find him. As the bowler hat guy approaches their carriage, Enola walks away, not wishing to become entangled, as the man passes her and finds Tewkesbury. She arrives to see the man holding the youngster outside the train entrance, prepared to slam him into a tunnel wall, screaming. Enola assaults Linthorne and saves Tewkesbury by leaping off the train right before a bridge, stranding the intended murderer. Mycroft is enraged when Sherlock and Mycroft realize Enola has fled. Mrs. Lane informs Sherlock that Enola has little practical knowledge of the outside world and begs him not to forsake her a second time. Enola and Tewkesbury start walking through the countryside toward London, pausing for a respite at night, where Tewksbury exhibits his great knowledge of plants, flowers, and edible fungus to hunt for sustenance, explaining that after narrowly missing being crushed by a falling tree limb, he realized he didn't want to join the army like his uncle or assume his place in the House of Lords like his late father. Enola, in response, informs him of her desire to flee rather than be taken to Miss Harrison. Enola cuts his long hair short to escape detection. Tewksbury suggests they stay together in London, but Enola refuses, and they split up when they arrive.
We parked.
It is.
Then thank you, Enola Holmes.
Enola disguises herself as a well-bred woman and seeks a boarding home to reside in with the money Euphoria provides for her. Meanwhile, Sherlock and Mycroft make their way back to London. Mycroft has the police looking for Enola,
But I have the best police officers in London looking for a child matching her description.
and Sherlock has turned down the Tewksbury case in order to find for her and Euphoria. Enola discovers that the Viscount Tewksbury's disappearance has received a lot of attention and leaves a coded note in numerous newspapers for her mother. She then locates Ethel, her mother's frequent correspondent, who offers jiu-jitsu sessions for ladies above her tea store and used to teach Enola self-defense. She informs Enola that Euphoria does not want to be identified and that she has a secret job to perform in London. And Enola recalls her as one of the women in Euphoria's secret meeting.
Our choices. Bang her in the match, tangle her, or early husband.
Enola discovers pyrotechnics in Ethel's office after returning to her kids, and recalls hearing coded phrases during their meeting talk. She decodes them as places and concludes that they are hiding something near the docks. So she goes to check. Enola discovers a warehouse with a purple ribbon, the same ribbon that was on her mother's birthday gift to her. She sneaks in and discovers a large quantity of pyrotechnics, gunpowder, and other explosives. She also discovers suffragette rally posters and is terrified to see full-fledged explosives secreted away. She is unsure if she should continue her search for her mother because she appears to be involved in harmful activity. Linthorne ambushes Enola as she seeks to leave the docks, interrogating her about Tewksbury's location and attempting to drown her in a water trough. She outwits him, briefly escaping, and tells the audience how her mother taught her different things, including physical fighting. Enola is finally defeated by Linthorne's superior strength after a long struggle between her and Linthorne. He tosses her through the warehouse door and tries to finish the job by stabbing her. Despite the fact that she is protected by her whalebone corset, she flees Linthorne by detonating the explosives in the chamber. While healing her wounds, Enola tells the audience how she nearly died attempting to save a sheep and her mother's advice not to put her life in danger to assist others. Enola, on the other hand, determines she cannot abandon Tewksbury to his destiny and tries to find and assist him. Enola disguises herself once more, this time as a widow called May Beatrice Posey, to meet with Lady Tewksbury, the Marquis Mother, at Basilweather Hall. Tewksbury's mother, uncle, and grandmother are all doubtful of Enola's claim to be a lady detective, until she reveals she works as an advance investigator for Sherlock Holmes. This piques their attention, but Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard enters and states that Sherlock works alone all the time. Sir Wimbrel, Tewksbury's uncle, sends them both away, declaring that they do not want any further assistance. Enola and Lestrade put their Sherlock knowledge to the test and discover that they are on the same level. Lestrade walks away, perplexed at the word May. Enola pays a gardener for his uniform and is sent to the woods, where Tewksbury spends the most of his time.
Where would he go?
Lestrade meets with Mycroft and informs him about May Beatrice Posey, who matches Enola's description. Mycroft verifies she is his sister and instructs Lestrade to track her down. Enola discovers saw marks on the base of the tree limb that nearly killed Tewksbury in the forest. She also explores his concealed tree home, where he prepared his plans, and drew fictitious places on a map of London to lead his pursuers astray, including the docks where Linthorne jumped Enola. She discovers flower pressings in a trip book and hypothesizes about where the Marquis is hiding. Tewksbury's grandmother, the Dowager, surprises her by speaking with May about the boy's absence and telling her about his father. She describes him as a fresh thinker, and young Tewksbury is likely to be the same. She tells May to convey her love to her grandson if she sees him before she does, and she lets her go without being caught peeking.
Off you go.
Sherlock follows a trail of evidence from Ferndale to Edith's tea shop and seeks to talk with her, bartering for her time with the prohibited literature she allows her customers to read. He inquires about Eudoria's location, stating that she must return to care for Enola. Edith informs him that Eudoria is doing wonderful work to help the world, and Enola appears to be looking after herself. Edith also informs him about the useless child Enola met, as well as her search for Eudora. She says she is relieved that Sherlock is showing an interest, as Eudora expected him to disregard his younger sister. She tells Sherlock that Enola requires his assistance and encourages him to find and assist her.
But I suspect that she needs you.
Later, Enola arrives to Covent Garden Market, where she locates Tewkesbury amid the busy vendors selling flowers. He is glad, albeit startled, to see her again and wonders why she went to the bother of tracking him down, assuming she could give him in for the prize money. She informs him that she is there since his life is still in jeopardy, and they both admit to missing each other since their leave. Enola leads him back to her apartments, where Tewkesbury discovers a stack of newspapers. Enola describes how her mother abandoned her and how she is awaiting a response to the note she sent her. They have a kinship since they both lost their fathers and because the rest of the people in their life don't appear to want them. Enola informs Tewkesbury that, despite his family's affluence, someone in his family sent a killer instead of a detective to locate him. Enola claims that she is certain his father was murdered, and that whomever did it must have wanted him dead for the same reason. She also informs him of her findings at Basilweather, as well as the fact that the branch that nearly killed him was cut on purpose.
I found the branch that almost killed you. It had been cut.
Cut.
Lestrade ambushes them, but Enola sees him and responds. They make it to Enola's room but fight to keep the door shut. Enola advises Tewkesbury to flee out the window since his life would be in danger if he is caught, and there isn't enough time for them both to escape. Tewkesbury protests, but Enola orders him to go, holding the door just long enough for him to flee before being apprehended by Lestrade. Mycroft brings her to Miss Harrison's finishing school for young women and confiscates the money her mother provided her. She is trapped in her room between lectures and attempts to stay defiant of the headmistress, despite the fact that her spirits are dwindling. Later, Enola is informed that her brother has arrived to pay her a visit, and she is relieved to learn that it is Sherlock.
Hugh.
Thank you, ma'am.
She is unhappy about her circumstances and checks his newspaper for a possible message. Sherlock advises her to remember the teachings, since they may come in helpful in future situations. She inquires about Eudora, and he responds that he has followed her trail, although by pursuing other clues and discovered the docks one step behind Enola's showdown with Linthorne, where they discuss the explosives discovered. She accuses him of assisting Mycroft in capturing her and treating her as a case, which he rejects and says he came because he cares for her. He inquires about the Tewkesbury case, having surmised that she was on the train with the youngster. He is intrigued with her investigative work and inquires whether she has solved the problem. He gives her some detective advice and also gives her Dash, the pinecone puppy, which he found among Eudora's belongings.
Dash.
Sentimental, really, but she always did.
Informing Enola that he and Eudora both think she's special. Once Sherlock has left, Enola reads the newspaper and discovers that the Reform Bill is still stuck in the House of Lords, as well as another piece regarding the still missing Marquis. Just then, Enola receives a huge basket, ostensibly from Mycroft, but it is discovered to be Tewkesbury.
Tewkesbury!
You're supposed to be helping me out. Getting in with me.
Who has snuck himself in. Enola is ecstatic to see him and thankful that he is okay. He intended to exit the same way he entered, but Enola changes the plan to avoid Miss Harrison's watchful eye. Tewkesbury takes the basket with Enola to Miss Harrison, telling her it's from Mycroft, and Enola flees as Miss Harrison sends the youngster away. They steal her car. And Enola informs Tewkesbury that he is being targeted in order to prevent him from taking his seat in the House of Lords and voting yes on the Reform Bill, and that his uncle stands to gain the most by assassinating both his father and him. Enola resolves to go to Basilweather and face Sir Wimbrel after being inspired by Sherlock's counsel. They enter the home, but it is dark and desolate, and they are trapped inside by Linthorne, who is waiting for them and is armed with a shotgun. Enola and the Marquis duck into the darkness to avoid being shot. Enola jumps the gunman but is knocked out. Tewkesbury assaults Linthorne, knocking his pistol away, but is likewise subdued before he can kill her. When Enola attempts to recover consciousness, Linthorne begins strangling Tewkesbury. She successfully grapples Linthorne, pushing him headlong into a sharp fixture and kills him. The Dowager comes, and Tewkesbury is distraught to learn that she paid Linthorne to murder him and his father. She pulls out the shotgun and tells her grandson that she had to stop him from voting on the Reform Bill. She informs him that she sent his mother and uncle back to London to seek for him, and that his death is critical to the country's destiny. Tewkesbury is shot in the chest in cold blood, presumably killing him. Enola disarms the Dowager and laments Tewkesbury. Tewkesbury, on the other hand, awakens after simply being knocked unconscious by the hit and reveals that he secreted a steel chest plate from one of the suits of armor inside his jacket, shielding him from the shot. He rises and informs the Dowager that her time is over.
Your time is over.
As Sherlock arrives at Scotland Yard, he orders Lestrade to arrest the Dowager since she is attempting to murder the Marquis and had his father killed. He reveals that Sir Wimbrel couldn't have done it since he was at war, but the Dowager wanted him to vote against the Reform Bill and any other similar reforms because the Viscount and his father would have voted in favor. Lestrade admits that Enola solved the case first, which impresses Sherlock. Tewkesbury returns to the House of Lords, rejoining his mother and uncle. Enola sees him off at the airport. They bid one another an emotional farewell, promising to see each other again soon. While Tewkesbury prepares for the final Reform Bill vote, Enola finds a coded letter in the paper calling for a rendezvous, but upon deciphering it, she concludes that it was sent by Sherlock, not Eudora. She disguises herself and leaves. Sherlock is waiting for her, but Mycroft claims she has outwitted him. Sherlock offers to take Enola in as a ward once they locate her, which Mycroft accepts.
And you're a cantankerous one, older brother.
Irritated that the Reform Bill has passed thanks to Tewkesbury's vote. As they walk away, Sherlock notices Dash but not Enola, who we see watching them. Her mother is waiting for her when she comes to her new boarding house. Eudora says that she wanted to tell Enola where she went, but it's not secure and she can't remain there for too long. She is pleased that Enola saved the Marquis, and they briefly reconcile before Eudora departs, urging Enola to send her a note if she ever needs assistance. Enola informs the audience that she must forge her own path and that it is time for her to find her place in the world as a detective, stating, "Our future is up to us." As we conclude this video, I want to express my gratitude for your time and attention. If you enjoyed the content and would like to see more, consider subscribing and tapping that notification bell.